So there are some details that I will probably share in this video, but then there are other details that I'm not going to share, because I've got this thing where I'm not sure whether I'm tripping or not a fair portion of the time actually in life. I'll just tell you the things that I know for sure actually took place. Okay. So yeah, so I go on there and I try, because I was kind of nervous to check in and see what they said about my review, and potentially if any of them had actually seen me there, because the guy who sat next to me told me that he'd been to like 100 Bob concerts, and usually those types are like on the forums, right? So I thought maybe he would like be there literally and in the thread and be like, yeah, I sat next to her, or I sat next to you and you were fucking crazy as hell, which, I mean, yes, I am. But one thing I want to say is this, okay? I think Bob fans are again, I'm using myself as an example here, so I'm not trying to like be mean to anybody or nothing like that, but I think that we're like crazy. Like, I think we're all crazy. Dude, so even the 60-year-olds who I was surrounded by in the lobby, who were standing there talking about how they'd been Bob fans since they were kids, okay? But you ask them the last time they saw him in concert, they're like, we've never seen him, or we saw him in the 60s or whatever. And then they go, yeah, we want to hear him play the oldies. Okay, so even the people who don't know anything about what Bob's doing these days, okay, even the fans who are like not devoted, okay, purely, let's just call it what it is, they're not devoted. Even they're crazy, dude. Like, literally everybody there was fucking crazy. Including the people who were talking smack as well, and I'll get around to it. They were all crazy, homie. Like, and I was too, and I am too. And what is the deal with that? Has Bob noticed? Bob's noticed. He's noticed. Guys, like, he knows, like, why in the fuck are all of his fans so crazy, dude? Oh my god. That's honestly kind of tragic, homie. Like, because think about it, like, you were famous and all your fans were crazy. I don't know. Is like everybody just crazy and I never noticed before? Like, that could be what it is too. So yeah, I'm sitting in the lobby, dude, chilling like a villain, okay? I'm like, dude, I'm wearing this, and I'm leaning back against the wall, and I'm just like, I'm surrendering to the experience, because SKyPAC was loaded, okay, loaded, dude. I don't think they've probably ever seen anything like this. But God bless the staff, because they worked hard last night. Honey, it was like crowd surfing at a certain point. So yeah, so I'm sitting on this chair-like structure, okay? And I say that because they were more like ottomans or whatever, like big, like square, like footrests or something. And so I'm sitting on one of those, man, and you gotta, if you want to touch the wall on this, you gotta sit all the way back on it. So I'm like up against it, and I am lounging, honey, okay? And this was at the beginning where there weren't that many people in there, but it was already super busy in the lobby. And so I'm sitting there, dude. This old man comes and he sits down next to me, okay? And he's like, yeah, I gotta sit down because my knees, the knee replacements, they're not doing me very well. And I showed interest in this because, in my family, we need knee replacements. And my dad had said that, Amy, don't worry about that in the future because they've made so many great advancements on knee replacements, and it's, totally going to be fine by the time you need them. So every time somebody be talking about their knee replacement, I'm like paying attention. And I asked him, I said, when did you get it replaced? And he said, I don't know. He said something recent. And I was like, well, they were supposed to be better now. And he was like, well, maybe they are for some people, but they're not for me, and all this kind of shit. Anyway, he started talking about how he saw Bob in concert in the 60s or whatever like that, before Bob was even born type shit, which it's cool. That's cool. Anyways, and then he goes like, yeah, I saw Woodstock, you know, and I'm like, Bob wasn't even at Woodstock. I didn't say this, but this is what I'm thinking. And they always, dude, I can't even tell you how many times, even in non-concert settings, like older dudes have tried to come at me with the whole Woodstock thing. Like I would be like, oh, whatever, you know, and it's like a homie. Cool. The only great thing about Woodstock is that I'm pretty sure Jimi Hendrix was there. Otherwise, so dude, come around to it, he's like, yeah, I want to hear him play the oldies. And I just look at this guy like, is he serious, you know? And then I'm like, well, I mean, he's gonna play All Along the Watchtower. And every time I told one of these old people this, they kind of were like, part of me wonders if they knew, like, that All Along the Watchtower was even Bob's fucking song. I'm so dead serious. Nothing would surprise me about it. Nothing. Okay? So I had to break this news to, like, several old people in this group. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wow, this really shows you, like, where you stand as a Bobite. You know, for me to be the youngest person in that group of people standing there and whatever, like, and that I knew more about Bob and what is going on than they did, and was just strange. Clearly, it was really odd. So anyways, dude, so I'm chilling like a villain, and every now and then I'll get up and like crowd surf, you know, through this place because there's nothing to do, and they've already locked your phones up at this point, so I couldn't like do nothing. Couldn't even tell what time it is. The only time, the only clock was like this huge ass screen at the end of the lobby, and I went over there a few times to see what time it was. By the second time that I had gone over there, dude, it was like body surfing, like literally, like you had to get all up in everybody, and to navigate this shit. And so, and I did that. I went and I looked and I saw what the time it was. And so at this point, it was like 30 something minutes out from showtime. I make my way back toward the chair-like structure that I had been sitting in earlier by the ladies' room, right? To my shock. Now, the first thing I had did when I got there was go to the bathroom. Okay, period. I had to pee, honey. Okay, for real. For real. Okay, so I had done that, you know? Admittedly, like 30 minutes before that. But I looked at this line of ladies, honey, and I said to myself, all right, self, we got a decision to make right here and now. I decided, okay, well, clearly I'm going to be having to go in there and sit there for 30 more minutes until the show starts, and then it's going to be like an hour and a half. I'm like, but you know what? I'm going to commit to this, and I am not getting up, and I'm not taking a bathroom break. I'm not missing a second of Bob. Okay. So I made that choice, and I went in, and I claimed my seat in the pit. So I was the third row of the pit, the third seat. And I get there, dude, and there's these two ladies sitting next to me. And they've never been to a Bob concert, but they claim that they're like, you know, old school fans. And they were cool, and everything was fine, right? So, and because my concern is always, is somebody near me going to be like a problem, right? Are you going to be a problem? Are you going to be talking trash, right? Is my concern. Or are you going to be drunk? Are you going to be drunk, or are you going to be talking smack? God forbid you're doing both. Okay, I'm a sensitive creature, and I can't be having it. For real, for real. So I assessed these two ladies, and they were fine. So then the guy who's going to sit to my left, he comes in, and he sits down. And I don't know, one thing led to another, and he was telling me he's seen like over 100 Bob shows. And I said, the first thing that I've said to somebody that night that was like some wild shit, I go, oh, that's what I like to hear, so you're not going to cause me any trouble. And he kind of looked at me like, what does she mean by that? Like I said, I just mean, you know, I don't want nobody drunk sitting next to me. I don't want nobody talking smack. And there was a super drunk guy sitting next to him. So I'm just glad that he wasn't next to me. Okay, this dude sitting next to me, he was totally fine. Totally fine. You know, thank God for him. He was well behaved. He cared about Bob and he knew everything like there was to know, because we had a brief conversation before, you know, the show or whatever, talking about, he's like, what's your favorite Bob song or album or whatever? And I was like, you know, I was like Quinn the Eskimo, and Man gave names to all the animals. And my favorite album is Saved. Okay? There's room for everybody, honey. There's room for everybody, honey. Okay? And we all crazy, apparently. So I tell him this, and we get to talking about some obscure Bob facts. Things that, you know, the normie is not going to know, right? And so we get to we were doing this, it was an unspoken thing where we were like assessing each other's level of Bob nerddom, you know? Do you know enough for me? Do you know enough for me to like be comfortable with you being here right now? Right? And so I think after that whole like encounter, we had decided, yeah, you're fine. Just don't say anything to me, and I won't say anything to you, and don't, you know, let's just not. At that point, the seats in front of me were still empty, and I was thinking, who's going to be in those seats? Who am I going to have to do like this to stare at Bob the entire time around? Okay. So said people come in eventually and sit down, and it wasn't that bad. I had to do this around this guy's shoulder for like most of the show, to be honest with you, but there were a few blessed times, dude, crazy enough, okay, where these two people like in front of me, like, because they were together and they got up to go to the bathroom, I guess. Anyway, they got up, dude, and when they did, there was nothing standing in my way, and I could see Bob and the entire band. Like, it was like there was nobody between me and them. I'm pretty sure. And I was like, it was, dude, I was so shocked. Like, I was shocked. I was totally shocked. And the only times when I could like feel anything other than pure and total shock was whenever I needed to cry or I needed to groove, because the band was so popping. Yeah, dude, they were dropping that beat, man, and I was like, you know, working it. You know what I'm saying? Cause you gotta. Goats, every last one of them, greatest of all time in what they do. So yeah, so what happened exactly? Here, let me consult my notes, because there's a few things I feel like I want to touch on. Yeah, so I had said something funny on a post on the forum. My point with the post was I was trying to say that, you know, everything that Bob does is like analyzed, you know, hugely. And if he grunts and moves his hand in a certain way, like, people are going to be talking about it for a week. Like, what did it mean? What did it mean when he grunted and he moved his hand like that? Well, I had one of those moments where Bob, he didn't grunt, but he moved his hand and did this thing with his hand. And I was like, woo! That's all he's got to do. That's all he has to do is move. Just do the thing with just. You can't even describe the Bobisms. You can't describe them. It's the way he moves. It's the same way he's always moved since he was, 20 or whatever, the first time that we ever saw him on the scene. He's always been the same. He's got that same body language, and whenever it shines through, he's timeless and immortal, and it's him, and you're like, whoa, I can't believe it, it's him. Like, it's really him, dude. Crazy. Because the way I think about Bob is, I was talking about this yesterday. Yeah, Bob is Bob throughout the ages. Bob is, today's Bob in 2026, okay? He is the same Bob that was 5, that was 15, that was 25, 35, blah, 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 blah. All the eras that we ever saw of Bob. You know, Nashville Skyline Bob's in there. You know, all the Bobs. All the Bobs. And there are so many Bobs. They're all in there. Okay. The Bob that you see on stage in 2026 is comprised of all of the Bobs. It ain't just 1960s Bob that you didn't see at Woodstock. It's not just 80s pirate Bob. It's not just like any other single era of Bob, dude. It's all the Bobs. And that doesn't mean that any era that you saw Bob in previously, you know, isn't as great as this or isn't as special as this. I mean, it totally is. Like, if you saw Rolling Thunder Review, like, whoo! I mean, and some people did. Let that sink in. Some people saw that, for real. Scarlett, dude. She was the secret, honey. Okay. We're leaving it there. But, yeah, dude, so all the Bobs. You're getting all the Bobs. If you see Bob today, you're getting them all, dude. I mean, oh my God. So, yeah, so that leads me back around to the review that I wrote on Expecting Rain, right? That I shared on there. I was kind of scared to look at the thread this morning because I was like, oh God, what if somebody saw me there and they were like, wow, you are freaking insane. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that a lot of people thought that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure that, you know, by some chance, if Bob or the band saw me, they probably thought I was nuts, you know, and that would embarrass me, except for the fact that now I think I understand that Bob's fans have always been completely insane. And so that he probably totally expects you to be nuts. You know, like, I mean, it's not that anybody wants that, but it kind of looks like that's the situation, right? And he definitely knows that by now, you know, so no, I'm not ashamed, okay? I'm not ashamed or embarrassed by my inability to contain myself. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed by my inability to, like, pick my jaw up off the floor and, like, look composed or look like, what am I supposed to look like when this legend is standing right there with his legendary band and they're like working together as a unit to deliver us this insane show? How am I supposed to act again when I've got all the Bobs, you know, standing right there, and yeah, I'm supposed to just be like, sorry, honey, I can't deliver on normal. Okay, I can't deliver on whatever these other people be doing. So yeah, so I gingerly approached this thread this morning. Just kind of scared that somebody might, you know, have been like, ugh. Well, that's not what happened at all, dude. So I get on the thread and I have like several replies to my review, which I was the only person. I think there was one other guy, maybe two other people who posted a very like short review and just like a normal check-in saying Bob sounded great and it was all awesome and the band was awesome. Because, you know, sometimes that's all you get on some of these threads for these specific shows, because there's not everybody goes to every single show, you know what I mean? So yeah, I go and I look at it and people were like, oh wow, you know, it's so cool to see somebody really excited about Bob or whatever, you know. Basically, the general consensus was that that they enjoyed the review and that they thought it was nice that somebody was really excited about Bob today. And that's what I had kind of said, you know, earlier. I think I said this, that where's the excitement at, you guys? Like, because I know it's out there and I know I'm not the only one who's stoked. I know I'm not the only one who's stoked, okay? But where are my other stoked peeps at about Bob? Like, where are you guys? And maybe, hey, maybe I'm chronically online and live on the fucking internet, and everybody else who's super stoked about Bob isn't on the internet, or they're like somewhere else on the internet, or they're in real life, or what, you know, where are they? I don't know where they are. I mean, I don't know where they are. I can't be the only like one who is like this fucking stoked. And let's talk about the Patreon for a second, okay? Like I told y'all how the Patreon thing unfolded, how I ended up there right off the bat, dude, literally right when it opened, or right when he unveiled it to the public. Like, I joined immediately and I started participating in the community. And I've gone back and forth on whether or not I feel like I just come across as like some kind of idiot, you know what I mean? Like, because I will read what is posted to his Patreon, and then sometimes things that are kind of vaguely related to it, or something that like it sparked something in my memory, or whatever my reaction is to it, you know, sometimes it don't make no kind of sense, I guess, in the context of what the post is about or what the sharing is about. But I leave my thoughts anyway, you know, because it's Patreon. That's the whole friggin' point, is to engage with the fans, or allow the fans to have somewhere to engage on an exclusive level. Right? So I figure, you know, yeah, I like to post on forums about Bob and stuff, but I mean, I think the Patreon should be utilized, you know, for some comments, certainly. Yeah, and so then, but no shade to anybody on Bob's Patreon or in his community or anything like that in general, because you can't on one hand ask where are the excited people at, and then bitch and moan whenever people who appear to be excited show up, right? So early on, the Patreon was this very like gentle, well, except for a few outliers. Bob's Patreon was people just loving Bob, and, you know, excited to be a part of something new and everything like that. But I have noticed recently that there is some strange shit starting to take place in them Patreon comments. And again, like, I have to look at myself here. You know, I have to put that magnifying glass on me and look at my flaws, and look at, you know, maybe the way my entire being comes across, you know, when I try to participate in communities. You know, maybe I'm exactly like the things that I notice about communities that I don't. It's not to say that I don't like the element that comes along. It's not like that. It's just that I sense disingenuine stuff. You know what I mean? Basically, it's like some disingenuine shit or whatever. So I feel like a little bit of that is like creeping into Bob's Patreon, because it's pretty lit now at this point. He's got like a ton of paying members and a ton of regular members in general. Because people don't like understand how Patreon works either, is another thing I've noticed. It's like the main number that it shows on your profile is all your followers, you know, including free subscribers, which Patreon used to not even allow that free shit, you know. You know, they used to not allow that, so it's like whatever, but you can follow them for free. It's still a very protected community. It's still a very small, like, it's not very small, but it's still a small community. It's still a filtered community, which is good, you know, which is what you want. This day and age on the internet, there's way too many bots, okay? You cannot trust that somebody's not a bot, and it just because somebody joins Patreon and pays doesn't even mean that they're not a bot, you know, set up by somebody. They could be as well. But usually the paywall ensures that, you know, that's a real person, typically, you know, so that's great. And it is such a great thing to have that community, that protected place, that protected space. But yeah, some weird shit do be traipsing on in there. And I am one to talk. So like, again, I can't judge this. I can't judge it. I can't sit back and be like, well, I think this was, you know, whatever, dude. No, dude, I can't, right? So, yeah. So, listen, I was like, recently I said to myself about Bob's Patreon, I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but I love it. I love it. I love it. I don't know how this came to be. I don't know how Bob decided to bless us this way. I don't know what he saw or what inspired him or what made him feel like, you know what, I need to be on this Patreon. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just so glad that he did. I'm so glad that he did. And yeah, I love it. I love it, dude. I love it. Say what else? Oh, dude. Okay, yeah. Lord. Y'all. So on my way out of SKyPAC, okay, walking back to the parking garage with the herd, there's an old guy next to me, okay? I clearly look like I'm on cloud 9, and he must have noticed that, so he wanted to try to piss on my cloud. He goes, yo, Bob was boring tonight, wasn't he? He's like, you know, 20 years ago maybe he would have been great, but not now. And dude, I look at this guy, dude. I lower my glasses. I look him dead in the eyes and I say, oh, honey, I would. And then I speed walked away. I don't know if he understand what that means or whatever, you know, like, but he looked shocked. So maybe he did, like, gather what I fucking meant, right? 20 years ago? Honey, how about today, okay? Bob is wanted. Bob is wanted, honey, okay? And that's the bottom line. And so it's like, so, you know, it's like what I've noticed is there's a lot of old dudes who were like super jealous of Bob. And I theorize that it's because back in the 70s, like they had a girlfriend that loved Bob more than she loved him, you know? And he's like not over that. Yet he's like a weird like person who goes to Bob's concerts, you know what I mean? Like even though like he hates Bob. Like, I don't know, dude. I don't know what the deal is with these fucking people, but I am not the Bob fan that you want to talk shit about Bob to, you know, and then you don't expect to get an earful. Like, you're going to hear some shit. Not on the internet, but in real life, definitely. You come up to me and talk some shit about Bob, honey, I mean, prepare to be shocked, because I'm gonna say something. I'm going to say something you wasn't expecting. And I mean, you know what I'm saying, honey? You know what I mean. You know what I mean? Okay. Another thing that's like not even related to Bob, but like this was part of my experience. Catch Hell Blues by the White Stripes. Catch Hell Blues was like the theme of this experience for me. So I was listening to Catch Hell Blues. I'm one of those annoying people who will listen to something on full volume on my phone out loud, like rather than use headphones, okay? So I was walking around the parking garage and stuff because I was totally confused, okay? Let's not get into it. I recorded all of those experiences, all of that, okay? So I was super duper confused. I was walking around, and I just had Catch Hell Blues playing on my phone. And I was listening to it like over and over and over and over. And oh, it was so good. Oh, it was so good. So Catch Hell Blues is the official theme song of this whole experience. Okay, and my last note here, it says when Bob claps at the audience. It's like he's clapping as a kid or for kids. He's got this adorable, impish way about him that you would not expect to see out of an old man. It's like MGK said, Peter Pan. Okay, so Machine Gun Kelly met Bob, and he said that Bob had this essence about him that was youthful. It was youthful. There was something about it. There was this innocence about Bob that, yeah, it was like it penetrated time and space and was not limited by either. Okay, what is up with that? And Bob's always had that, and he has that to this day. And so when at the end of the show he comes and stands at the front of the stage and lets people clap at him, which he does not really like because he's so humble, he doesn't really want to accept applause, which is the reason why he claps back at the audience. He claps back so that, you know, it's like, you know, it's like there's no words to describe it. There's no words to describe it. Like the essence of where he comes from with that, but that Bob standing there clapping back at the audience is the real Bob. That's the real Bob, right? And there's no way for me to explain what the fuck I mean by that. If you know, you know, and that's the bottom line. That's the real Bob. So that's pretty iconic, dude. I mean, it's pretty funny to have to use like limited words to try to explain something as unbelievably huge as every aspect of what Bob Dylan represents and is, period. Okay, bottom line. So I will reflect on this concert for a long time, I'm sure. And I have recorded a huge amount of videos during this mini trip, wherein I just talk about everything, you know, that I've been up to lately, and just, I don't even remember, like, there's a lot of goofing off and stuff like that. Yeah, but I have like a ton of footage to go through. Some of it is me talking about Bob, a lot of it isn't. I'm not really sure how I will edit and distribute those clips among my channels, but I might include some non-Bob related like footage on this video or on another video on my Bob specific channel. But in any case, I just wanted to say that, you know, I've been intensely inspired by Bob recently, and, you know, his whole making the Patreon thing really lit me up, and I went stratospheric with my passion that it ignited in me. You know, I've been working on a writing project that has been with me, that I've needed to do for like 13 years at this point. It's what I refer to as my life's most important goal. It is the most important thing to me. I'm a writer, and that's what I do. And yeah, so this story that I've been trying to give birth to is like the most important thing to me. And when Bob started his Patreon back at the end of March, I was precisely in the middle of this story. I was kind of stuck in the middle of these episodes, and so I think I was stuck on like episode 6 of the series. And then when Bob released his Patreon, little by little, the gravity of like what that entailed and what that meant, like pushed on me. And I ended up rough drafting, outlining 7 more episodes in my series, finishing the first season of my series, okay? Finishing the outline of my flagship series, the most important thing to me. I finished it, and all that I have to do now is edit it and get it formatted to be released on Amazon KDP. And I'll also continue episodically releasing PDFs of each episode on Patreon, as I've been doing. You know, and that was a reason that Bob joining Patreon really meant so much to me, is because he was doing exactly what I have been doing. And to see him do that, like, I mean, when I say it's inspiring, I mean, that is like not sufficient. It's not sufficient. And I don't know what could ever possibly be a better example of Bob's generosity, of inspiration, you know, than joining Patreon and offering short stories as PDFs. I can't imagine anything more generous that he could possibly ever do to inspire people and to light people up. It's just incredible, dude. There are lots of other series. In fact, dude, the energy was so amped that, like, the day before I came on this mini vacation to go to this concert, I actually finished editing episode 2 of my other series. I cranked that out in like a day, dude. I finished the formatting of the PDF file and everything. I cranked episode 2 of that series out in one day, like, because I was so fired up. And I had the spare time, like, that day in between, like, having, you know, gotten ready to come on this mini trip, packing and everything like that. I was all set and ready to go, and I had a day to burn. And I just pounded out episode 2 of that series, which is my side project. And so, yeah, so I have, like, several series that I want to write, fiction, you know, several standalone fiction series that I want to write. And beyond fiction, I have lots. And I have enough nonfiction. I have enough philosophical and other types of writings to last me a lifetime. I don't even need to write another word as long as I live. I just needed to compile what I've already written into volumes of books. And I will also release those on Amazon KDP. So everything is nudging me to move in the direction of having everything available on KDP to be printed out as an actual physical book. That's my goal. So now it's not about perfecting the hell out of these series. It's about releasing them so that they can live, so that they can be alive, so that they can exist, and so that they can be printed and distributed. I mean, distribution far and wide is what I'm looking for. I want this in everybody's hands. So, there's my review of Bob Dylan in Bowling Green, Kentucky at SKyPAC on April 16th, 2026, an auspicious day. And it was incredible. It was beyond everything that I hoped and dreamed it would be. In the months that I waited for the day to come, all of the incredible experiences that I had along the way of just, you know, loving Bob and being in the Bob flow, and yeah, everything. It's been incredibly magical, and it's put wind underneath my wings to go ahead and bring life to what matters to me and what my life's biggest goals are. So I want to thank God, I want to thank Bob, and I want to thank the band.